My tour of the Yorkshire Dales today begins here in Bolton Abbey, and I'm going to be exploring a little bit more of Wharfedale. Just inside the southern edge of the Yorkshire Dales National Park, and just north of the border with West Yorkshire, lies Bolton Abbey. The Bolton Abbey estate lies in Wharfedale, taking its name from the ruins of the 12th century Augustinian monastery, now generally known as Bolton Priory. The estate is open to visitors and includes many miles of all-weather walking routes and a variety of attractions for people of all ages. The monastery was originally founded at Emsay in 1120. Led by a prior, Bolton Abbey was technically a priory, despite its name. It was founded in 1154 by the Augustinian order, on the banks of the River Wharfe. The land at Bolton Abbey, as well as other resources, was given to the order by Lady Alice de Romile of Skipton Castle in 1154. In the early 14th century, Scottish raiders caused the temporary abandonment of the site and serious structural damage to the priory. Building work was still going on at the abbey when the dissolution of the monasteries resulted in the termination of the priory in January 1540. The east end remains in ruins. A tower, begun in 1520, was left half standing, and its base was later given a bell turret and converted into an entrance porch. Most of the remaining church is in the Gothic style of architecture, but more work was done in the Victorian era, including windows by August Pugin. It is still a working priory today, holding services on Sundays and religious holidays. The setting is immortalised in both art and poetry. These include a painting by Edwin Landseer and watercolours by J.M.W. Turner, one of which is held at the British Museum. William Wordsworth's poem, The White Doe of Rylstone, was inspired by a visit to Bolton Abbey in 1807. As I walked down to the water's edge, I had to decide whether to cross the River Wharfe by a footbridge or stepping stones. I chose the easier option. Well, I wasn't brave enough to use the stepping stones, so I used the bridge. Oh well, never mind. Now that I was on the east side of the river, there were two paths leading to where I would be making for. One path follows the riverside across meadows, but I chose the other route, which headed up the incline, so that I would get some great views of Wharfedale and the Priory. This is part of a 2-mile circular walk, starting and ending in Bolton Abbey. As I climbed up, I entered woodland, where the path eventually levelled out. As I walked along, the views were very special indeed. After a while, my path descended back to the riverside. Crossing the wooden bridge, I walked over to the west side of the river wharf. Here I arrived at Cavendish Pavilion, opened in 1890. It very much resembles a Victorian-style station building. In 2006, Cavendish Pavilion was renovated, and it came under the management of Devonshire Hotels and Restaurants. In 2012, the pretty cafe was completely transformed once again, and now boasts new outside seating and a beautiful new interior. Its lovely setting beside the river wharf speaks for itself. Right, so now that I've crossed over, I'm going to walk down the opposite bank back to Bolton Abbey. My walk back to Bolton Abbey was a gentle one, as the path followed the riverside the entire way. So that's me back at the Priory here at Bolton Abbey. Now it's time for me to move on further on up Wharfedale to my next exciting location. I passed the memorial fountain as I headed back to my car. Moving on from Bolton Abbey, I made my way northwards as I drove up the B6160 towards my next location in this part of Wharfedale. I've arrived at the Strid car park, so I'm going to walk from the tea rooms here through Strid Wood to the next place, which I think is going to be quite interesting. Strid Wood tea rooms provide the ideal location for a traditional tea room experience for the whole family. Offering home baking, homemade soups, afternoon teas, sandwiches, savouries, as well as full hot and cold meals, there is something for everyone. There is also a selection of gifts and souvenirs to take home, including Yorkshire preserves and chutneys, artwork and prints, crafts and handmade jewellery. Walking into Strid Wood, I followed the path heading down towards the river wharf again. Aha! This is known as the Strid, and it's a very dangerous place, so I'm not going to get any closer. Even though where the water is cascading down behind me, it looks quite innocent because it's got a narrow little gorge of the wharf. But however, people have been swept away in the past, so it is extremely dangerous. The Strid is a series of waterfalls and rapids associated with a deep underwater channel caused by the dramatic narrowing of the river wharf from approximately 30 foot wide, just to the north of the start of the Strid, to the width of a long stride, less than 100 yards later. It is especially dangerous, as both banks are undercut, and it has been the scene of a number of fatalities, including those of a honeymoon couple. The Strid Walk is very popular, and can be accessed from all three Bolton Abbey estate car parks. Returning to my car again, I continued to head north along the B6160 and had more fantastic views over this section of Wharfedale. Before long, I arrived at my next destination. So here I am at Barden Tower. Barden Tower is a ruined late 15th century tower house built by Sir Henry Clifford. This was his chief residence after the Clifford estates, confiscated by the Yorkists, were restored to him on the accession of Henry VII. Because Clifford led a troop of dalesmen to victory at the Battle of Flodden, halberds used at that battle were passed down to descendants, and as late as the middle of the 20th century could still be found in some farmhouses in the area. Next to Barden Tower is the Priest's House, a Grade 1 listed building and venue, offering excellent cuisine, weddings, private functions, music nights, and genuine medieval banquets. Both the house and the old chapel are steeped in history and charm, retaining most original features such as real log fires, dark oak beamed ceilings, and paned windows. So that's Barden Tower. I've only got one more place to visit today. Driving on from Barden Tower, I had more great Wharfedale views from the B6160. In no time at all, I could see my final destination of today's tour, so I headed towards it. Parking the car again, I crossed a lovely 5-arched bridge over the River Wharfe, leading me into the village I was going to visit. Well, I'm ending today's tour in this pretty village. This is Burnsall. Burnsall is about 4 miles southeast of Grassington. It has a parish church, a chapel, 2 hotels with restaurants, a pub and a primary school. The school, Grade 2 listed, is in the original 1602 grammar school building, a legacy of William Craven of nearby Appletree Wick. A path along the river from Burnsall to Hebden, 1 mile to the northwest, dates to Viking times. The name Burnsall is thought to mean either the hall by the burn, or possibly the hall of a chieftain called Burn, meaning ruler. Sol in Danish means the chief room or hall. The village attracts walkers, cyclists and other visitors all year round. It's a favoured spot for picnickers who enjoy the river from the village green and the fields across the river. Burnsall is also popular with trout fishermen and for the annual feast day games held in August, when there are amateur canoeing competitions, tug-of-war and fell races. So that's the end of my tour today of this part of Wharfedale in the Yorkshire Dales. Bolton Abbey to Burnsall. Absolutely wonderful.